Sarin nu pyar bhari sat sri akal, main thodi apni Sonia West. We are here in Surrey at the BCRC MP location here, where Sukh Dhaliwal MP, Sukh Dhaliwal and Parliamentary Secretary Taleeb Noormohamed are going to make an announcement. ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ announcement ਅੱਜ ਕਰਨਾ ਆ ਥੋੜਾ ਜਿਹਾ Surrey ਦੇ crime ਬਾਰੇ, extortion ਬਾਰੇ, ਇਹਦੇ ਦੀ ਜੋ ਕੁਝ ਸਾਡੇ ਸਿਟੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੋ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ ਇਸ ਟਾਈਮ ਤੇ ਉਹਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਦੱਸਣਾ ਆ ਤੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਇੱਕ ਜਿੱਦਾਂ ਸਲਾਹ ਕਰਕੇ ਮਾਰਕ ਕਾਰਨੀ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਡਿਫਰੈਂਟ ਸਟੈਪਸ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਦੱਸਣਾ ਪਿਆ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕੀ ਕਰਨਾ ਆ ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜਾ extortion ਦਾ ਮਸਲਾ ਹੈ ਇਹਨੂੰ ਹੱਲ ਕਰਨ ਦਾ ਤਾਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਪ੍ਰੈਸ ਕਾਨਫਰੰਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਉਹ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਗੇ ਤੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਦੱਸੋ ਕਿ Surrey ਦਾ ਫਿਊਚਰ ਕੀ ਆ
I'd like to first recognize that we're here on the unceded traditional territory of the Coast Salish peoples, including the Katsi, the Kwantlen, and the Semiahmoo First Nations. We also respectfully acknowledge the many other Indigenous nations that are represented among Surrey's population. I'm pleased to be joined by so many members of our BC caucus. Of course, Sukh Dhaliwal, who needs no introduction but will be speaking later, Ernie Klassen, Jake Sawatsky, Parm Baines, and of course, Zoe Royer. We're also joined by members of the RCMP, and we appreciate all the work that they do. My colleagues and I have been strong advocates for the announcement that's happening today. They are proud advocates and strong voices for our communities, and it is as a result of this collective effort that we have this announcement to be made today. I believe we're also going to be joined by Mayor Locke. I don't see her yet, but I think she was also intending to be here. We have other partners as well who have been strong voices for safer streets in our community, so I want to thank them for their attendance. Before we get into the announcement, I want to acknowledge the deeply troubling events that bring us here together today, events that remind us of the urgent need for action on crime. Last weekend, just a few blocks from where we are today, a Surrey woman was left seriously injured after having been shot in her home, caught in the crossfire of an extortion-related shooting. The week before, another shooting, this time at a local business. In that instance, luckily, no one was hurt. And again, just this morning, Caps Cafe was targeted in a third shooting this year. Sadly, these stories have become far too common. Here in Surrey alone, where since the start of the year, the community has seen over 33 extortion-related shootings. Now, this isn't just a Surrey problem. This is a problem across the province in communities small and large, rural and urban. And it hits all of us, regardless of our backgrounds or our communities. As the father of a young family, like many Canadians, I know the importance of wanting to keep our loved ones safe. And while my boys aren't yet at the age where they could walk to school on their own, many of the kids in our community are, and many parents are worried and concerned about making sure that their kids can make it home from school safely. We want communities where our kids can go to the local park without having to first look for needles on the playground, or where our seniors can still feel safe walking home at night. Les Canadiens méritent de se sentir en sécurité dans leur foyer et leur communauté. Nous avons fait campagne sur ce sujet-là, et aujourd'hui, nous tenons cette promesse. And so I'm incredibly proud to announce new concrete measures we're introducing to combat crime and keep repeat violent offenders off our streets. Our plan rests on three pillars. First, we're tightening bail rules and strengthening the criminal code. We're introducing reverse onus bail for violent and organized crime-related offenses. As it stands now, when someone's arrested, the prosecution needs to go before a judge and argue that that person should remain in custody until their trial, putting the onus on the prosecution. That's now going to change. So if you're arrested for a violent offense, you'll need to prove to a judge why you should be released. We're also strengthening the criminal code by increasing penalties so that if you commit a crime, especially if you're a repeat offender, and even more so if you're a violent offender, we're going to make sure that you're not simply getting a slap on the wrist, but you're getting a sentence that matches the harm you're inflicting on our communities, keeping you off our streets and away from our families. Another aspect that many have asked us for is consecutive sentencing. And so for offenses like auto theft, home invasion, and organized crime, offenders will now need to serve their sentences consecutively instead of concurrently. This means that if you're sentenced to 5-year terms, for example, instead of serving both those terms at the same time, you'll now serve one after another, keeping violent offenders off our streets longer. Lastly, this also means undoing reforms put forward by previous governments that have not had the desired results. And on that front, we're working in close coordination with provincial and territorial partners to implement their suggestions, because they know what works best for them and their communities. But we're also looking to them to make sure they're making full use of the new tools that we've provided them. Provinces and territories play a vital role in administering justice, including policing, prosecuting most criminal code offenses, conducting bail hearings, and supporting victims.
As Taleeb talked about safety, public safety, and safety of Canadians and safety of Surrey people is our key responsibility. Prime Minister has said very clearly that he's going to deal the crime with 3 pillars. Pillar number 1 is we got to make sure that we are able to provide frontline resources, strengthen the criminal code, and prevent the crime to happen. To deal with the first one, we are investing $1.8 billion over the next 4 years to hire 1,000 new RCMP officers. And I want to thank the RCMP for providing decades of service to Surrey and to Canadians. And that's the key. And everywhere, it's not only over the last few weeks. In fact, over the last few years, I'm sure there are many people in the media that are sitting here, they will say the same thing, that residents of Surrey, one of the top issues is to deal with crime, extortions, making sure they're safe in their homes, workplaces, and of course, in their religious spaces as well. I raised my family over the last 3 decades here in Surrey, ran my business. My elderly mom lives with me. I feel the same pain. Every week, and in fact, sometimes it's every day, when I hear there is an extortion call, there is a shooting in the community, it hurts me. And in fact, it gives me a strength as well at the same time that I can go to Ottawa and fight for the people of Surrey. There's not a day or a week when I haven't talked to the Minister of Public Safety and the Secretary of State responsible for crime. Just one issue, single issue, to make sure that people of Surrey are safe, because that is not necessity, that is essential, and that is the responsibility of our government, and our government is acting to deal with that. And I, along with the other Surrey colleagues, Arnie, Gurbax, of course, Randeep is not here, and Jill, and we are committed to work for the people of Surrey to make sure that we are able to make this community a safe community. And that is why we are hiring 1,000 new RCMP officers, so we have the strength that we need to deal with these crimes that are happening every day. So thank you again, Taleeb, my dear friend, and of course the caucus chair for us in BC, who's always been very diligent when it comes to raising voice for Surrey.
Sonia West, Sanjha TV, FYI Media. My question is, obviously, it's going to be about extortion. It seems like someone having a disease and then just giving medication to kind of help the disease along, rather than going to the root cause. So having cadets and giving them incentive of more money, having more boots on the ground, which is a great thing, but getting to the root cause. What is the root cause? Why is this even happening in a beautiful country like Canada? You talked about petty crime. We're not even worried about petty crime anymore. Petty crime is nothing. We're worried about our lives being shot at in the middle of the night. Caps Cafe has been targeted so many times. We all know, like, no one wants to go to Caps Cafe, obviously. But why did this happen again this morning at 3:30? It doesn't make sense that it would happen again when we know that that's been targeted so many times. So I feel like we need to treat the disease and not have a Band-Aid, even though I appreciate, you're doing what you can to have more enforcement and the incentives. But it feels like a treatment rather than getting to the root cause and being proactive rather than we need to get to the root cause, basically.
Thank you, Sonia. Sonia, as you know, I'm one of those MPs that's out there, probably one of the most accessible MPs out there in Canada. In fact, I don't even look at it whether people are calling me from my riding or from outside the riding. Ginny can perfectly say she called me. I immediately picked up a phone and called the Minister of Public Safety. Within minutes, she probably got a WhatsApp message from the minister. My responsibility, because I'm one single member of Parliament, I'm very fortunate that the whole BC caucus stands with me when it comes to raising this voice, whether it's the transnational repression, whether it's the extortions, whether it's the bail reforms. When I raise this voice, they stand with me. In fact, when you talk about the root cause, and we have to have a system in place that people who are trying to commit this crime or committing this crime are able to be found, arrested, after arrested, being prosecuted. So those things are important, and wherever, whether it is the local police forces, whether it is the provincial government, whether it's the laws on the federal level, all three levels of the government, orders of the government, we are committed. And same with jail too. I can tell you, one of the extortion shooting happened in jail's case. Jail has a very little sliver of Surrey. And I gave that person called me, and I gave that person jail's personal number. And when he called, she picked up on the very first ring. And in fact, she's the one who came back with that issue in the BC caucus, and we raised it. So this is where we as elected representatives are working together as a team. It is not a political issue. It's not a stripe. Someone is NDP or Green, Conservative or Liberal. This is a Canadian issue to deal with. We got to work together, keeping our politics aside.
ਸੋ ਇਹ ਸੀ ਸਾਡੇ ਅੱਜ ਦਾ ਪ੍ਰੈਸ ਕਾਨਫਰੰਸ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਸੁਖ ਧਾਲੀਵਾਲ ਨੇ ਪਰਮ ਬੇਨਸ ਵੀ ਇੱਥੇ ਅਟੈਂਡੈਂਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਸੀਗੇ ਤਾਂ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਪਾਰਲੀਮੈਂਟਰੀ ਸੈਕਟਰੀ ਤਾਲੀਬ ਨੂਰ ਮੁਹੰਮਦ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਵੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਮਸਲੇ ਦਾ ਹੱਲ ਹੈਗਾ ਵੀ ਇੱਥੇ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਕ੍ਰਾਈਮ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ ਸਰੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਵੀ ਐਕਸਟੋਰਸ਼ਨ ਲਈ ਤਾਂ ਬਾਕੀ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਪੈਰੀ ਕ੍ਰਾਈਮਸ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਉਹਦੇ ਲਈ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਕੈਡੈਟਸ ਹਾਇਰ ਕਰਨੇ ਆ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ RCMP ਦੇ ਆਫਿਸਰਸ ਹਾਇਰ ਕਰੂਗੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕੈਡੈਟਸ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਅੱਗੇ ਆਮਦਨੀ ਸੀਗੀ $2,000 ਮਹੀਨੇ ਦੀ ਉਹ ਹੁਣ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ $4,000 ਦਾ इंसेंटिव देना है ज़्यादा लोग आके पुलिस विच काम करन सो इदां नहीं है कि सिर्फ यूथ मे बी एडल्ट्स जिन्हां दी उम्र ज़्यादा होई हो मे बी 40-50 साल दे वो भी आके काम कर सकते पुलिस दे विच उन्हां नूं तनख्वाह भी वधिया मिलूगी तां वो सोचदे पे शायद जे ज़्यादा पुलिस होवे उहदे नाल साडी कम्यूनिटी सेफर होगी सो मेरा सवाल उन्हां लई सीगा भी इहदी जड़ की आ असीं इस टाइम ते ट्रीटमेंट दे रहे आ पुलिस ज़्यादा लैके पर इहदी जिहड़ी जड़ आ वो सानूं पहले फिक्स करनी पैनी है सो देखदे आ गवर्नमेंट गाहां की कर रही है पर इस टाइम ते वो कोशिश तां कर रहे आ सो कोशिश करनी आ इन्हां दा फर्ज है सो लेट्स सी व्हाट हैपन्स इन द फ्यूचर मैं तुहाडी अपनी सोनिया वेस्ट थैंक यू फॉर वाचिंग सत श्री अकाल